Weekly with ID. I always forget our name. And number 9, we did the Women's March last week, which, by the way, had over 200 people. And hopefully you were there and enjoyed that. And we're going to have 2 presentations today. Ann Markward's going to kick off the first one, which is talking about Lauren Boebert. And then Carolyn Hunter is going to share with us an article that she read and how to stay sane before and after November 3rd. So we'll go ahead and Annie, you go ahead and start now.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks for the invitation to come and chat with you guys. I'm hoping a few people do get to see this on Facebook because Lauren Boebert is a very interesting character, and I'd like to show you a couple of videos and a couple of webs and a website that is kind of the synthesis of what we're finding out about this woman. The more we dig, the more we find out, the more we become absolutely determined that she should not take this seat in a few weeks or months. So let me go ahead and I will screen share, first of all, a video that was done a couple of weeks ago, which you may have seen on Facebook, I'm not sure, but if you haven't, let's take a listen. So I'm going to try to do that right now. Oops, there we go. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay.
People dressed in militia outfits is a threat. To see these people dressed in militia outfits is a threat to our whole country. If these militia people are not suited up and armed to shoot other Americans, then what are they doing? What are they doing? As someone who has fought in combat, in battle, you do not want to see that happen here in the United States. You do not. If you can't get elected to Congress without threatening somebody else, maybe you don't have anything to offer.
Paid for by rural Colorado United, not auzed by any candidate or candidates committee.
To see these people dressed in
sorry,
outfits.
I thought I stopped it. Okay, so that to me is kind of an important background piece. This woman is happy to have the 3%, the militia, behind her at all of her rallies. She has people with loaded weapons showing up at her restaurant, but also at all of her campaign rallies, where she rallies, of course, today. I guess she's in Durango again, without masks. She is all hat, no horse, as they would say. She's Sarah Palin light, but with half the experience, and it's worrisome. Young woman who we're not able to go after fully because at some point it just becomes beating up on the poor innocent young woman, you know? But frankly, she's a woman who had one illegitimate child. We think that she left that child with her mother and stepfather to be raised by him. We have emails and Facebooks where her younger 4 sons admit that that is their older brother. She then got into a relationship with an oil and gas worker named Jason that had domestic violence as its primary focus. He was known for indecent exposure to minors at bowling alleys. He was known for beating up this woman and tossing her out, and she was known in turn for beating him up and tossing him out. They went on to be a fine Christian family and had 4 more children. She got very busy trying to do various things. She's had either 5 or 6 businesses. She says that Shooters, her current bar and grill, has no liquor license because of her commitment to God. It's actually because the woman cannot get a liquor license because she kept serving alcohol to underage folks and was busted for it. She had another business called Putter's, I think Putter's Grill, which was at a golf course. Might not have been Putter's Grill, it was Putter's something, which she lost her liquor license for and has not been able to get another one. She is not the type of person you would want on your school board, much less representing you in Congress. Her former landladies will not take checks from her, would not take checks from her because she kept bouncing her checks. She has multiple tax liens on her current business, totaling almost $20,000, even though she took money for COVID-19. She then opened her business during COVID, during the shutdown, and allowed people to congregate without masks at that time. She's given people food poisoning, which, I mean, that can happen. But she takes no responsibility for any of her actions, any of the businesses, 6 businesses, 5 businesses she's failed, any of her arrests for driving with her children in the back seat unrestrained by seatbelts or child carriers, for causing ruckuses at public events where she was encouraging underage drinkers to keep drinking and resist arrest, and she finally got pulled aside. She's not a good role model for any of us. And she also just got her GED in May of this year, and she's 34 years old. When you follow her on Twitter or you follow her on Facebook, you notice that she never has a policy position. She has over 200,000 followers, but she doesn't have any policy. She has stupid things that she says about, oh, so Joe Biden doesn't want to use any oil. So how are you going to make that plexiglass shield, Joe? Or, you know, today it was, if Joe Biden doesn't want to use any oil, then he probably ought to get a Prius instead of Air Force One. She is absolutely in with the Trump camp, and it's really kind of interesting. I would like to go ahead for just a second and share one other screen with you. So let me go ahead and just show you this one website. It's called Rural Colorado United. I don't know if any of you guys know Nathan Steele, who worked with Carl Hanlon's campaign, or Joel Dyer, who has been bouncing around doing various kinds of video lately. This is their project. This is where some of the information on Lauren is. They have a couple of different ads. So the same guy, this guy's name is George Otterby, and I'm assuming this is what's showing to you guys, right? You're looking you're looking at my screen again. Okay. So this guy who we saw in the past ad did another one. He was the one who was kind of the front for this. He's a Vietnam vet. He's out of Pueblo, which was really important. He's extremely concerned. They have now raised over $200,000 to place billboards and ads and a lot of Facebook, primarily in Pueblo and Mesa, to really go after her, because those are the 2 population centers that matter. They are also the ones who keep feeding the media. They hope to feed them another lead on Monday. They've actually gone and done investigative work in Rifle and have found out that no one in town trusts this woman or likes her, which is interesting. It goes on beyond and on. She tells things like, oh, I wear a gun and I have my people wear guns because 2 streets away. That's what she was referring to. Her mother was actually a registered Democrat for a while, but has mostly been a Republican. Lauren herself was a registered Democrat at first as well. She just recently earned her GED, but reckless driving citations, tailgating, speeding, multiple citations for the child safety issues, interfering with police custody of underage drinkers, 8 tax liens, allowing pit bulls to remain at large without licensing and attack her neighbors, a foreclosure eviction, a civil case filed by Capital One Bank, failure to appear in court multiple times. She just blows it off. It just doesn't mean anything to her. If anybody is interested, send them to this website, which is called Rural Colorado United, and they can look up a lot of this. And if they want more information, the Nathan and Joel are certainly willing and able to get it to people. Luckily, the Grand Junction Sentinel has come out very strongly saying this woman knows nothing. answers no questions and is just not appropriate. The Pueblo chieftain has come out also and said, no, she is not appropriate for representing us in CD3. But interestingly, the Colorado Springs Gazette, which is not in our area, has said that they're endorsing her simply because of her movie star good looks.
Oh my God.
That's
Which makes
the
my head
worst
just-
reason. That's so bad.
It's so sad. It's so sad. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and I'll stop the share now, but it's just so sad. It's just so appalling, the whole thing. So I just wanted you guys to know, if Joel were on, unfortunately, I don't know what happened to him. He was totally into it yesterday and now he's gone.
And I just sent another email to, oh, you just froze.
Maybe he's hot on the trail. I froze?
You froze or somebody froze. Maybe it's on my end. It's hard to know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay, great. So I think Joel would kind of go over the same sort of thing, but with a great deal more urgency and probably a great deal more titillating information than what I have. This rural Colorado group has done a really good job. A couple of weeks ago, they had a fundraiser with Phil Weiser and Madeline Albright, who spoke to us brilliantly. They both spoke to us about being children of Holocaust survivors, right? And how Phil Weiser, of course, was, I believe, born in concentration camp, and the camp was liberated the day after, which was fortunate for him.
That might have been his mom.
Obviously.
I think it's mom. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
That's correct. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. And then for years, talking about how she didn't even know until she was being vetted for Secretary of State that her family were Holocaust survivors, and how much that really informed her in her role as Secretary of State. And now she's writing a book that's called Fascism, which has just been released, and is talking about how it's militia groups like what Lauren Boebert with the QAnon and the militia and so on and so forth. It's this rise of this authoritarianism in our country that she's so terrified about, which is why she agreed to do a fundraiser for rural Colorado, which was really great. Anyway, just a heads up, I know none of you guys were going to probably vote for this woman anyway, even though she has movie star good looks. But she is a force, a shit ton of money from the country. She has well over 200,000 Twitter followers. And even if they each just give her, 50 cents a month, she has a big amount of money, and we could lose this seat to her. There's
Anne, what would you recommend? What's the best way for us to help?
calling. I think it's calling. Laura, I think you've been more
Calling?
involved with that than I. Haven't you? You've been doing some phone banking for
I haven't been doing phone
Diane?
banking. I've mostly been doing letter writing,
Okay,
but I've been contacting the campaign fairly often.
your friend Sarah Mueller?
Yeah, from
Laura?
Nasty Women of Colorado. Yeah,
Yes,
They're,
yes.
they're doing a really, really good job. If you're not on their Facebook site, it's really a great site. And those women are really working hard. And the more we can feed them about what they can do, worry about the trailer park.
Right,
Did you see
I
that?
did.
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah,
interesting.
it was very interesting.
I just noticed that Lainey had weighed in the chat room saying that she has
Yay,
been
Lainey.
phone banking for Diane. Yay. Lainey, do you want to tell us, are you directly in consultation with Drew or someone else on her campaign? Or are you doing that through the coordinated committee, or how is that going for you? Can you?
Sure.
There we go.
It's been Scott with the Colorado Dems. I think he's local here in Durango. He's the one that I've
He is.
been in touch with, and then weekly, every Saturday, I've been able to donate some time,
Great.
make him calls. And it's actually been more positive for me over the last couple weeks.
today, especially. Most people I'm talking to, granted, we're calling fairly friendly folk. We're calling unaffiliated and Dems. We're not calling Republicans, but most people are appreciative of the information or have already voted blue, pretty much across the board. That's how my conversations today went.
Good,
That's
good. I'm
very
glad to hear that,
good.
lady. Well, thank you for doing that. There is one other phone banking project that's going on simultaneously, which is Vote the Ticket. And they talk about, they don't talk specifically about Diane. They talk about, you know, top to bottom on the ticket. And that's being done by La Plata Democrats. Beverly Ellis is the one who's heading that up. And she's doggedly working her way along with a few volunteers through, by God, every Democrat in La Plata County, and says that her response has been very good. And that they have, like, they're thinking now that we're going to have more than 85% turnout, which is great. Let's see. We've had 45, La Plata County as of yesterday, I believe, La Plata County has processed almost 18,000 ballots through October 23, 45% voter turnout of all active registered voters. That far exceeds what was done for the June or even March primaries. There will be, of course, some in-person voting taking place today and next week in Bodo, and only 2 days of in-person voting at Bayfield Town Hall in Bodo, and I think also at the Southern Ute Cultural Center. 60% of active registered Democrats have already voted.
Wow. And I haven't gotten mine in yet because I still have a silly question on Amendment B.
Oh, okay. Do we want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, get it done. You
Thank
need
you
to get
so
that
much.
in.
Okay, so what it is, because I'm a big proponent of affordable housing, I would like to know, and I've left a message for the county assessor's office, but I didn't hear back. What would the effect of Amendment B be on affordable housing in La Plata County? And particularly, I'm thinking of the scenario where it seems to be this case of, you know, the residential share of the tax burden has been going down and down and down. The assessment is at 7.15% or something like that, whereas commercial's assessed at 29%. And so I'm getting all these mailings that say, oh, you know, support your police and your local firefighters, which I want to do, and I can't make sense out of everything in the blue book. It seems like to get more money for police and firefighters, that has to come from somewhere. And it sounds like it's coming from raising or not lowering further, I guess, the residential rate. Is that explain it is not lowering further?
That's right. It's not lowering further the residential rates, because what happened is that with Gallagher being tied to, and if anybody else has better information than me, please speak up. Amendment B is incredibly complicated, but because Gallagher and Tabor are tied together, as I understand it, every time, of course, taxation and state revenues get ratcheted down for whatever reason. And this year it was due to 20 to 30% reduction because of COVID, right? We had all sorts of industries shutting down and the taxation not being raised. Well, now the minimum tax amount has been lowered by another 20 to 30%, which is going to dramatically hurt us moving forward over the next few years. And what they're basically saying is we have to unhinge those two so that we're not constantly, we've gone from the top 5 in school districts and payments for our public education to 47. Since Tabor has been put in. So so again, of 18,000 ballots, that's 40% of total ballots received. That's poorly written. I'm reading something and it's poorly written. So 40% of total ballots received are by Democrats and represent 60% of active registered Democrats. So Democrats who only comprise what is it, 32 or 34% of voters here in La Plata County. And that number is going down on a weekly basis because of the way vehicle registration is now being done. Everybody is automatically registered to vote at the DMV, but they're automatically registered to vote as unaffiliated unless they make a specific request to go Republican or Democrat or Green or whatever. So you're going to continue to see a real shift to the unaffiliated voter, Deb. So in La Plata County, as of the 21st, so that's 2 days before the numbers I just gave you a few minutes ago, 6,100 voters, Democrats, had turned out. 4,800 unaffiliated had turned out, and just under 3,200 Republicans had shown up.
Okay, that's
So
good.
we're, you know, and given the fact we run about 70%, unaffiliated typically run 70% Democratic around here, we're thinking we're okay. I'm trying to find my screen again.
Okay.
We're hoping, but we're still turning out folks.
So,
I want to say that the League of Women Voters, who you know is, they're very careful. They agree with the Dems on every single one. They didn't take a position on the wolves, but the Dems ended up not doing that either. But
Interesting.
yeah,
Hmm.
so
I
League
I
of
didn't
Women
know that.
Voters-
They haven't, which
No.
is
there was a
disappointing.
point made in the blue book that they're already, the wolves' habitat is already spreading southward. You know, one of the arguments against that one was that it might happen anyway.
Yeah, I think that what I've heard a lot of people say is I-70 is going to prohibit them actually moving as far south as they should.
Don't they have like we do, where every time a natural drainage crosses,
Yeah, I don't know. Good
they go
question.
under a bridge?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know. Does anyone else
Okay.
know the answer to that? I'm not sure. That was the
Okay.
comment that
Comes
I
down the
heard
road,
some of the wildlife expert people say. They're like, you know, there's this unnatural boundary right there, barrier.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
just hit it. Does everyone see the first
Yep.
slide only on their screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this election, as we've just noted by the turnout, is probably the most contentious election. Whoops, let me go back. The most contentious election possibly since the Civil War. And of course, none of us were alive for that. So, and it's potentially tumultuous. And I think that it's, as I read this one article, I felt like forewarned is forearmed. And everyone, it's too fresh in everybody's mind, the disappointment we went through on the evening of November 3rd. And it's a real emotional roller coaster, especially the more effort you've put in to trying to get what you consider the right outcome, the harder it is. So the Boy Scouts say, expect the best, prepare for the worst. And so the rest of this slide is preparing for the worst, just so we don't get shocked by anything, because our current president in part relies on the power of shock value. And as the psychiatrist 2 doors down from me told me, we don't want him to control our emotions. So there is an article on Salon, and the title is Steve Bannon's Back. Ex-advisor says Trump plans to claim victory early on November 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this is in spite of the fact that the ballots in some states, and I think Pennsylvania is one of them, and that's a swing state, legally they are allowed to receive ballots as late as November 23rd, so long as they're postmarked on November 3rd.
So the Constitution, so that issue is one of the ones going to be in front of the Supreme Court, which is why they're pushing so hard to get Barrett seated. They expect to take away that right for Pennsylvania. That is the reason they're doing it. I just read that today.
So it sounds like, yeah, there's and we would have expected this from our current president, but I guess I would not. It was a shock to me to read that he might pull a stunt and claim victory at 7 p.m. on voting night, which is not what I just logically would not have expected anyone to be able to do that, but logic doesn't always apply. The other thing he may do is, just like he did with the census, is demand that all vote counting stop early. And that's another, thing we just got to brace ourselves for. And the good news is that the US Constitution protects us from these wannabe dictators. When it was written, the 13 colonies had just broken away from King George III of England, who they viewed as a kind of tyrant. And so they wrote in all these safeguards. And also some of these safeguards come from our country not having internet at the time. And so they had to allow time for news to travel on horseback. So December 8th, which is 5 weeks after November 3rd, is the deadline to certify the selection of the electors, meaning, electoral college, Democrat, Republican. And then December 14th, which is 6 days later, is when those electors vote. So our period of uncertainty is 1 day less than 6 weeks. So if we can just make it through until, December 8th or December 14th, that our uncertainty won't last forever. There are thousands of election officials and hundreds of judges involved in election certification. So that also gives us hope that it's not this small group that could be swayed. So he advises, the gentleman who wrote this article, and I'll get you his name at the end, I've given him credit at the end. He advises, let the vote count get complete before we join or plan any street protests. And the reasons are good ones, is elections should be determined by voters only, not by street protests. It's not shout government. And the other side would claim that we're not allowing the election process to work if we got out there and protested. Also in advance, look at polling averages, not individual polls. Average all the polls together, because some of the polls could be skewed. KSUT.org. KSUT happens to be my favorite radio station, and they are a good source of information for the election prior, but they told me they're also going to continue to post fact-checked information even after November 3rd. So into that period of 6 weeks of uncertainty. And this article said, if Trump, and we don't know if he's going to do this, if he resorts to unconstitutional or extrajudicial acts, that's when he's encouraging mass street protests, but only until that happens.
Carolyn, I was going to mention, just sorry to interrupt, but one other thing, however, there's been discussion, I don't know how, well, I think it could happen, that states could change their electors.
Like the super delegates?
Yes, they could actually, that's what Trump has threatened. So if that happened, it is during that period of uncertainty. So I think it's just a matter of seeing what's happening regarding that.
Yeah, if we see him try to shortcut legal processes, but I think we shouldn't go, we've become accustomed over these past, 3.5 long years that he will say anything. He almost speaks extemporaneously. And what he says versus what he's really going to be able to do are two very different things most of the time. So yeah, it's something to, will be a watchful, silently watching and prepared, but we'll expect the best until proven otherwise. So here's how to feel better. I think one of the troubles a lot of us ran into on November 3rd of 2016 is we gave it our all and we were exhausted by election night. We were just exhausted. And so this is self-care for all of us to, to cushion, all this. There will be a roller coaster. We're all hopeful it'll come out the right way in the end, but there is a roller coaster we're going to be going through. So first is know you gave your best efforts. I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody in here gave a whole lot of efforts. Plan something in your personal life to look forward to for November 3rd through the 6th or beyond. For me, what I'm doing is continuing education. It's all consuming. I have to really focus on it. It's something I need to do, and it's totally unrelated to politics. In this area, we know it well, outdoor exercise with friends. That's like the cure for pandemic stress to me, is getting outside with your friends on your favorite hiking trail. Limit your news and social media to 1 time a day. My pastor has been preaching that. He said studies have shown that people who do that have a much happier outlook than people who are, addicted to needing to find out the latest thing that's going on. And there's so much roller coaster news just this year as a whole. And then they recommend a relaxing evening routine for better sleep. And this is the part I got off the WebMD slideshow. So baths or a massage or scented candles or calm music. And there are a couple of programs on KSUT. I listened to Kuni Nashwa last night, 7 to 9 p.m. on Fridays. And then there's another one, Hearts of Space. It's on Sunday at 9 o'clock. And that just really helps you relax and get a totally different mindset so that you can put all that behind you when you go to sleep. And then the big picture is we're not alone. And we discovered that when we formed this Indivisible Durango group in early December 2016. So this presentation was based on Robert Hubbard's blog on October 19th, and also on a WebMD email dated October 21st. So thank you for your attention and all best wishes, staying calm and relaxed. Are there any questions?
No, those are all really good points.
Thank you.
I think for me, whoever wins or whatever we are told the day after the election, I don't think I'll be as shocked this time as I was 4 years ago.
I'd like to say, I put in the chat that Kavanaugh and Amy Barrett were both involved in the Bush v. Gore. I don't know who knows that, but they were part of that.
Right.
And then you should all watch All In, The Fight for Democracy. It is, if you don't have Amazon, it's worth subscribing. Of course, your head will explode by the end of it, but it's an excellent documentary.
There, now we can hear it.
A giant of the civil rights left us with this wisdom: give people light, and they will find the way. Give people light. Those are words for our time. Just a week ago yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of the events in Charlottesville. Close your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis. Remember seeing those Klansmen coming out of the field with lighted torches, veins bulging, spewing the same anti-Semitic bile.
Uh-oh, sorry.
Across Europe in the 30s, remember the violent clash that ensued between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country. And for me, a call to action.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? And would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love?
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that'll bring the trauma. Overseas, yeah, we trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living in the USA, the KKK. I can't believe they still hating blacks today. Cause if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate. And to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate. And that's exactly how hate works and operates. Man, you gotta have love and to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love.
People killing, people dying, children hurting, you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? And would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love? The love, love. Where is the love? The love, the love, the love. Where is the love? The love, the love.
So the question for us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are. We must be. We can choose a path of becoming angrier, less hopeful, more divided, a path of shadow and suspicion, or we can choose a different path and together take this chance to heal, to reform, to unite, a path of hope and light. This is a life-changing election. This will determine what America is going to look like for a long, long time.
Yes, it is.
Character is on the ballot. Compassion is on the ballot. Decency, science, democracy.
Yeah.
They're all on the ballot. Who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and most importantly, who we want to be. That's all on the ballot. And the choice could not be more clear.
Wow.
Isn't that
Well,
beautiful?
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that is important. It's all around